looking at this, we ought to look at both or all issues to do with teenage sex and not just pregnancy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So you're calling them the hardcores. The hardcores who enjoy the fruits of these things without getting pregnant. But those very innocent ones who march through their Pathfinder days and everything, and the day they taste like this, they are in. And so, like Esther says, maybe there's a bigger thing we need to look at. But I was looking at it even from a bigger perspective, as the big picture that comes into my mind is violence. Maybe I need to just mention that a bit. There's the violence against children. Most children who are in that age fall victims due to acts of violence against them. Violence against children comes in different forms. And it is perpetrated by parents, by their friends, by neighbors, by people in the church. You know, there's a lot of violence that are either emotional, sometimes physical, but there's also sexual violence. And so in one way or another, even as parents, there's a way that we are violent against our children in the house without necessarily knowing it. When we hurt our kids emotionally, we are violent against them. And so sex, teenage sex, pregnancy that comes with teenage could be just one of those aspects of the violence that is happening against children. So today I know that your focus is on teenage pregnancy, and we shall go there, but I also want you to think on the bigger picture of, is there any other form of violence? Is it more serious because of the outcomes of the pregnancy? Or is there something that we need to look at even more? Maybe my kids are not pregnant in the house, but they're also suffering more than those who are pregnant because of other things. And I'm sure that will be a discussion you'll have another day. Now, I want us to have to look at this video just to start us off. Very short video. Admin, will you allow me to share something?
I think you should be able to share now, Tom. Just check.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we think about the teenage pregnancies and all, I'd like us to ask ourselves, is it possible, just like Dr. Buta said, I have a part to play in this. As a parent, is it possible that I have a part to play in this? So I want us to be very open-minded. Let's listen to what Magoha was sharing on news the other day, and then we can have a discussion on this. All right, so kindly confirm that you can hear
Cabinet
this.
Secretary Professor George Magoha is urging parents to give more attention to their children who could be seeking it in the wrong places.
Hey, Amy, it's good to see you, my friend.
Liz Arok, I wanted to ask you, can you hear? Because you're the only one I'm seeing here. Please, by a show of hand, you can hear? Okay, all right, so I will just...
George Magoha is urging parents to give more attention to their children who could be seeking it in the wrong places. Magoha is blaming parents for failing on their roles, which has led to teen pregnancies, among other vices. Take a look.
After the latest reports showing a surge in the number of pregnancies in the country, the head of state has asked the Ministry of Education to look into the matter urgently.
Hii ujinga ya pregnancy inatoka wapi? What is it? Can we take our parenthood back? Can we take our parenthood back where we sanctify life?
Even as the numbers rise, it has been noted that the sexual assaults are more common at home. Since mid-March, pupils have been at home with their parents, who Magoha says have neglected to take care of their responsibility.
I'm going to plead with His Excellency to ban this nonsense of saying the body has to come and sleep. When the body is sleeping around, you have to do this to Komatanga and the children do other things. The body should come from the mortuary into the grave. Hakuna kitu kama disco matanga, like you have in Kilifi and in other places like where I come from. So the issue of our children getting wild is our problem.
Magoha was in Githunguri, where he was inspecting the preparedness of learning institutions ahead of the expected reopening of schools. Lila Mohammed.
All right, so Magoha is challenging us that is it about the kids or is it about us as parents? Are we blaming the child for going out, or are we part of the problem? And so together we can become part of the solution. So we would like to welcome all of us to a discussion. Let's bring everything to the table. Are we part of the problem? Are we part of the solution? Are we shifting blame, or should we take part of the blame for this? So I'll take the ball back to Dr. Buto, and let's just have a conversation about stakeholders and those who are responsible for this. Thank you.
Okay, maybe we need to get the status. Where are we right now? What is the situation like on the ground? We say things are different on the ground. We go different on ground here. Maybe we need to know what's really going on. What's the status, or are we just making noise? I would want to invite Sister Rose to give us the status. Give us some statistics and the situation as it is, and then we shall move on from there. Sister Rosemary? Unmute.
It's the technology. Happy Sabbath, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you. I think Nyali is one of those churches I never had a chance to visit while I was in Mombasa. It would have been nice to also see everybody. I think I will allow it for now. You know, sometimes people mute like this and they're nowhere near the gadget. So I want to pray that they're just near the gadget and that they're able to hear. So allow me share a bit of statistics and also just bring us up to speed while we focus on teenage pregnancy. What are these underlying causes? This is just a fruit or an outcome of something that has already happened. But where are we coming from so that we are able to see? It's like seeing your child with a pencil and you ask, where did you get it from? So much has happened for them to bring a pencil. Maybe there's a book or something else has also come into your house. So it's about where did the rain start beating us from? As we look at teenage pregnancy, that is just an outcome. So I want to share my screen. I don't know if I'm admin, I'm allowed to share my screen.
You are allowed to share.
Okay, so I will share. Okay, so just a few minutes. I might not see all of you because I want to try and do a slideshow so that we are able to move together. Just give me a second. There you are. If you're able to see my screen, are you able to see my screen? Lovely, lovely. So I want us to just get a few definitions. It would be nice if you have a paper pen, or if you're able to get everything, it would be nice. But I'll still share this with Dr. Tom. If you're interested, you can pick. So I want us to look at children, just as we look at teenage pregnancy. Tom talked about do boys also get pregnant? And I would want to address this as violence against children and not just girls or boys themselves. So a few definitions here that are a bit standard. Violence against children is a maltreatment and constitutes all forms of violence. So we are talking about physical violence. The environment where you are, what are the issues around physical? We're talking about beating. You've seen in the news how kids are beaten near death just because of 5 shillings or 2 shillings. Those are part of violence against children. Is your environment safe enough for a child to be able to stay? You're talking about the emotional well-being. I remember one of those things that would be said is about those things stick. And remember, we are talking about children who will eventually grow into adults. You know, some of those things that we say that get into the emotions of the children. Sexual assault, we're talking about neglect. You've gone to friend and left your children under the care of God knows who. There's a famous joke that people say, children just grow like trees. They are not taken care of. And we're also talking about commercial sexual exploitation. And the cost, this has been made one of the major challenges and contributors to violence against children of commercial sexual exploitation. So this could potentially lead to a child's health or dignity being affected. Yes, we are looking at teenage pregnancy as an outcome. You don't want to become a grandmother at 30-something. You don't want your child to be married with children, but now we are glaring at what are other potential risks. We have seen a number of suicidal cases and suicidal thoughts. This could be one of the major contributors that has led us thus far. I would also want to share what the World Health Organization shares as part of our SI measure, is that these forms also include, we're talking about people under the age of 18, and I think for purposes of our discussion, we would also look at the youths that we stay with, whether perpetrated by parents, caregivers, peers, romantic partners, or strangers. And I don't know why all the definitions around violence against children start by parents. Looks like parents are the major abusers or something. It starts with parents. You Google anything or read a parent or a caregiver. So that means these are people that are closer to us, people that are actually known to us. Globally, it is estimated that up to 1 billion children aged 2 to 17. Remember, we are talking about children slightly above 10 years, but look at what the statistics is giving us. You're talking about as low as 2 years. You wonder what the perpetrator is looking at 2 years. And that tells you that is somebody who had it in mind. You know, a pedophile has a history of maybe being abused at a younger age, so it is manifesting as they grow up. This is just in the past 1 year. The other thing I want us to also ask ourselves as we get into this discussion, why do we focus on ending violence against children? The violence against children has a potential impact on long-term health. And I remember I was talking about in the first slide that sometimes a child is abused, it's not known to them. And in the long time, when they are now adults, it haunts them that this is something they have actually addressed. Sometimes the consequences of the survivors are often devastating. And remember, we talked about the long-term psychosocial effect on these children, and especially mental health. And of late, you've seen in the news, mental health has become part of us. It has become like another COVID. How do we handle mental health? And I want to just ask ourselves, where did it start from? And we're also glaring at the issues like HIV. Yes, you don't have a child, you don't have a granddaughter, but what are the other underlying issues that our children are going through? And I want us just to look at quick facts, and these are facts from data that was shared. If you check it, you'll be able to find it. It is a recent data from the Department of Children's Services, supported by other non-governmental organizations. It is a recent report, and I think it was just launched 2 or 3 days ago. So this is very current on statistics of children and what Kenya, as a glance, we are looking at. Children exposed to violence have a bigger likelihood of normalizing violence and becoming perpetrators. Remember, we talked about, yes, they're not pregnant. One of the ladies shared that the ones that they know how, who know medicine, they may not get pregnant right now, but eventually there's a likelihood that they'll normalize this. It will be okay to violate. It will be okay to be defied. It will be okay to be exploited because that became part of their childhood. Another data that I also picked from the statistics is among females who experience childhood sexual violence, more than 3 out of 5, that is around 62%, experienced multiple incidences. So yes, it happened once, but because they did not know how to speak or who to speak to, and the environment wasn't safe for them, there's a likelihood that it reoccurred. And when you look at the ages of 18 to 24 years old, females 9 in 10 victims who experienced sexual violence did not seek help. As a parent, what does that tell you? If you have 9 out of 10, that means almost everybody now aged between 18 to 24, and we know that is the delicate age that we have, did not seek for help. Does it mean or does it confirm that our environment is not safe enough for these children to speak to us? I think that is a food for thought. The other statistics I want to draw our attention to is females who did not seek services for sexual violence indicated that the most common reason was that they did not think it was a problem. So half of the population who go through this do not actually think it is a problem. They do not think a bad touch from a parent, a bad touch from a caregiver, or a community member is a problem. So that means nobody has actually talked to them. And for me, it is sad that we start talking to our children about sexuality when they're old enough and they have known too much. We do not start from a lower age. And I would still want to pose this to you. At what age do you want to start to talk about sexuality with your children so that they do not form part of the statistics that says it was not a problem? The other one is that the most common location at first for sexual abuse is just an outside location. They've gone for a party, visit, sleep over, a neighbor's, an uncle's place, and then it happens. Or they're just hanging out, and so that is where it happens. Among 13 to 17, 81% and 80% of males said it was easy to talk to their mothers. I don't know where this leaves their fathers to. And I think this also bothers me in terms of how do we parent together. For single-headed homes, yes, that would be another discussion, but where we have both parents in the house, this is also a worrying, I think, of statistics for me. And then the other one that is also very interesting, males are likely to disclose and seek services, are not likely to disclose. Okay, so that means they're less. They will not even bother. So if somebody sodomized your child or somebody abused your child, they will not say it. Why? Because you reminded them, be brave like a lion. Mwanaume ni simba. Yeah? Mwanaume alili ovyo ovyo. Maybe your child just came home crying and you're like, nini wewe unalialia? Mwanaume hawalii hivyo. So tell me how this child would open up while you've already shut them. Okay. And then I want us to now zero in terms of sexual violence, because I know we talk about teenage pregnancy, but it was important for us to look at teenage pregnancy is just a small bit of the many, many things that happen around us. So when we talk about sexual violence, we talk about sexual violence as any form or attempt to obtain sexual by act of violence. Coercion, that means you bought them sweet or something. Act of traffic of person directed against person's sexuality, regardless of the relationship to the survivor. So nobody qualifies to abuse somebody. So regardless, even if it is apparent, those of us who like watching news, you remember the story of Busia 2 weeks ago? Those were very close, actually fathers and uncles. And for me, this is worrying. And then the other one that I also wanted to talk about is violence, exploitation, and abuse are often practiced by someone known to the child. Rarely is it a stranger. So scan around. And I think I have seen Liz Aroka. Nice to see you, Liz. Including parents, other family members, caretakers, teachers, and employers. You know, you look at that circle and it tells you it is actually closer home. Yes, we are Christians, we'll read the Bible, we read the lesson, but what is our environment? Can we scan around and just check? Then the other interesting, Kenya, these 2 weeks, I think, has been, we've been having what is called high-level political forum. The last 2 weeks, Kenya has been reporting internationally as a country. We are also obliged by international instruments on protecting children. And why this is important to us, this is what Kenya reported last week. So it also tells you, like I think it's Magoa was saying, you're on your own to protect your own children. And interestingly, this is the statistics that they shared, and this report is also online. So I've just picked an excerpt. Violence against children cases reported, namely neglect, defilement. You can look at those statistics, about 98%. And one of the excerpts that is also very interesting is that the pandemic has affected the educational sector. And this is a quote from the report, by disrupting the school calendar. The closure of school has affected the education of 10,000 students, tens of thousands of students, sorry. There are fears that vulnerable students may not turn to school. In addition, the disruption may have a long-term consequences on education and the economic health. And look at this, there will undoubtedly reverse the gains made over the years, including human capital, access to education. At the same time, girls are more likely to become pregnant. You have stayed with your child from March. We are in we almost half. We still have another half to go. So the government is already saying, by the way, even with COVID, we have no much control. So that means kila mzazi na mtoto yake. And sometimes you listen to Magoa, it says, those children are actually safer with you. Yet, the report also says the home is not very safe for these children. as I conclude, I want us to also look at this. This is also from the department. This is what they also shared. I want you to look at the statistics in 2016, 17, 18, and 19. And I just want you to pick cases of child marriage, teenage pregnancies, and look at the trends. When you look at 2016, you look at 2017, 18, it is not getting better. And as Christians, I think we cannot keep quiet anymore. It is not getting any better. Your child or my child could be the statistics if we don't stand like the brave. There's a song that says, stand like a brave. You look at the trend, and this is a government statistics. So it tells you, because it is a voluntary national report to international instrument, they will also say a nice thing about the country and will not say the exact picture of what is happening. Yet you and me know that every day there are cases that are reported. Okay? What is it that we can do? The report talks about the home and the family setting was the most prevalent place of occurrence with 94%. That is actually from the report. That the home is not safe, that all violence against children cases reported occurring in those settings. A third of them were high-risk cases that occurred immediately. This will tell you the challenge is a lot of parents will not speak up, especially if it is a very close relative. They will not speak. In fact, that child will go to Shangazi, and in the coast, they would cross to Tanzania. And before you know it, you have forgotten the emotional effect that this would have on the child. Violence against children, I believe, can be prevented, and responding to violence against children requires that effort systematically address the risks and the protective. As we look at the individual relationship and community and society, you as an individual, what is your role when it comes to ending violence against children? Teenage pregnancy is just part one of it. Your child could be assaulted and never speak up just because our society and our norms do not allow us. Have we become too busy? And sometimes we joke, maybe God has brought Corona so that we pay the little details of our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Maybe you'll bring down your screen, then we can move on. Yeah.
Just as you share that, I've just remembered, I want to show you something here that is very close to the church now. Maybe that one, somebody will say, lakini hajataja kanisa hapo. Now, let me just share something here that looks like a very closer. Where is that thing? Okay. Okay, yes, here. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. It is actually one of those very, and I think this must have happened yesterday or the other day. I'm just trying to click it up so that we are able to share together. Are you able to see my screen?
Yep, you can see your library.
Assistant pastor anakuja kanisani anaita.
Okay. There you go, share screen. Where has that assistant pastor gone to? Nimekuja. Where? Okay. If you can see the video. Are you able
Assistant pastor anakuja.
Can you see the video? Yeah?
Yes.
Kanisani anaita watoto, anawapatia peremende, anawaita ndani ya church. Akishawaingiza ndani ya church, anatoa sehemu zake za siri, anaonyesha watoto, anawaambia chapeni muone vile yangu imenona. Alafu anachukua vidole, anaanza kuingiza watoto. Mtoto mvulana aliingiziwa nyuma, wasichana wanaingizwa mbele. Ni thibitisho kwamba kama utakubali kitendo kimetendeka, mtoto amehojiwa, mama amehojiwa, lakini inafika wakati kama huu mama anatoroka, anaficha watoto. Kumaanisha ni mambo ambayo imekuwa ikiendelea, na mama anadhulumiwa katika maboma, watoto wanadhulumiwa na inawekwa chini ya maji, hayafiki mbele. Nimeshangaa wamama wametoroka. Hawataki kujitokeza kuja waseme ukweli jinsi maneno ilivyokuwa. Ingawaje mmoja jana aliniambia kwamba pastor amewaambia hii maneno wazungumzie nyumbani na yaishe. na mimi nalaani hicho kitendo kwa sababu watoto wamekuwa tortured, na hata kuna dhibitisho kutoka kwa daktari kwamba mtoto mmoja wa miaka 2 daktari alipata ako na makucha imevunjikia ndani ya sehemu zake za siri na kitambaa cheusi. Na huyu
Okay, that is just one, and then the last one as we ponder.
What
Are you able to see that?
sort of country allows such moral decadence to the level where you have lowered the threshold of sexual intercourse to 10-year-olds and 8-year-olds, and it becomes business as usual? But as Senator Ndwiga says, what responsibility have we taken? In my case, Mr. Speaker, let me tell you, I have a relative who I got into life imprisonment for impregnating a standard 6 school child in my village. In the last 1 year, we have not had a case of any person looking at a schoolgirl, just looking. But I have instances, like that particular instance, I discovered the chief, the OCS, the family were negotiating, land had been sold, they had agreed to pay 200,000. I am watching brief in a case in Machakos. They are offering now to marry the child so that they can deal with the question of defilement. Police stations, my dear senators, have become shops where policemen are doing cases on rape and defilement. They determine, and the quantum is 200,000, you pay, forget about it, parents are making money out of this.
Okay, so I'll leave it brief. I think they're also available online. You can just read through, but that is to bring us home that it is you and your child. What can we do as a church? The world has let, wasema imetoa makucha, inchi imetoa makucha against our children. What do you do? Do you have a role? Do I have a role? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Rose. So the big question here that we need to just discuss, that's where we are. That's the situation as it is. We know this thing is happening in our homes. We know that the parents are involved. We know that there are fathers who actually sleep with their daughters. We know that the friends around are doing it. Our kids are engaged in active sex at a very young age. And we are wondering, what kind of madness is this? And then the worst part is that we take it chini ya maji. So there are two things that we want to talk about right now. One, why do kids who are so young get engaged in sexual activity? Why do you think this is the case? I know those who are listening to me, there are some who are that young. You probably want to look at your kid who is 10 years and think they cannot get involved. It's always the other person's child. But let's talk about that other person's child. Why do you think they do get engaged in this kind of activity? I'll just accept 1 or 2 answers, then we move on to the next part. What is the cause of this in your opinion? Right.
Esther?
Thank you.
There's Esther and Angela.
Okay, so one of them is exposure through media. So social media, television, what they watch, and so on.
Okay.
Thank you, Esther. Angela? Angela, you can answer.
Another reason might be maybe that family is poor, and then that girl is bribed some riches and some wealth, so she just gets flattered and does it. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Thank
right.
you.
So
There's also
yeah. There's one person again.
There's also, I mean, somebody has comment, negative peer influence. And then there is from the teacher, Nancy, she said, they see this even on TV programs. Disney Child has programs where they have relationship. Their friends also share that they are doing it.
Right. So I watched a video that a girl was saying sex is the cool thing to do. Everybody says that, and they all want to experiment. Everybody wants to try it out, and everyone seems to be doing it anyway. And then there are the TV program that looks so innocent that they watch it. And as much as I allow my children to watch, I may not have control sometimes because I'm never there. I do not know, but they're slowly building it in their minds that it's okay, it's cool to do it. That's what Sister Nancy is saying. I wanted us to address an issue of trust and communication in parenthood. In the past, there were ways of teaching young people about sexuality, sex education. How do you people handle this? Nyali parents and all those who are watching us, those who are following this, how do you deal with sex? At what age do you engage your child in sex education? Is it even some kind of thing you want to do with your kid? How do you do it? Maybe you can learn from one or two of you. There's the trust of kids don't want to talk to us. So they talk to their peers, they talk to the TV, they talk to the media, because there's no chance to be educated and they're not learning from us. So they have to learn from somewhere. There's a gap, right? They have their trusts elsewhere, not with the parents. So do we do sex education? What do you think is the right age to engage our children in learning about sexuality and generally sex education? Anyone? Sabrina, you
Yes.
help me see them.
Yeah, I mean, I can just start by giving an answer. I mean, for me, I've read a book about parenting at the very beginning when I had Amelia as my first child. When I read that book says actually it's an Adventist book about parenting. And it told me you should be teaching your kid about sex at 3 years old. I can tell you my shock. I was like, what? 3 years old? No, this can't be. Continue reading. It was the process how you now teach the kid. At 3 years old, the book was saying you take your kids out in the wild. You show them animals. You're starting by showing them animals because you can't really show your kids like parents, but you show them the animals, how the animals get themselves together and how they have babies. And you start from there. So it was actually a very interesting topic. But then for me also, I think, I don't know, Amelia is there. I think I've rather been honest with her in terms of sex. But you see, we also needs to make the difference. Sex is not only like having the act, but it's also all that concern it, like your body will change, you have your periods, how you grow up to that. It's all that for me that build up sex. That's my answer. Now we have Liz. You can share with us.
Yeah, thank you for having this important discussion. And hi, Rosemary, nice to see you after so many years. Now, I think the challenge that we have, especially as the African community, Nadia, move. As an African community, there's a lot of taboo around discussions to do with matter sex. So you find that the problem is that we keep passing the buck. We as parents pass the buck to the teachers, saying, oh, they'll get to school and they'll learn about it. They'll be taught 1, 2, 3 and all that. But the reality of the issue is that those parents the teachers spend very minimal time with the children. And if you look at the teacher to student ratio, it's not enough to impart that education. Then again, of course, there are the other surrounding issues that need to be discussed. But what I know for a fact is that sex education needs to start at the earliest, at the very, very early. But the issue that makes it different is how do you pass down that information? And it ties more on using age-appropriate kind of communication. So for instance, my baby who is a year old, I'll start by telling them about the good touch and the bad touch. I know for those of us who teach children on these issues, we even have a song. These are my private parts, no one should touch it. So already they start to understand that they need to protect themselves from sexual violence by ensuring that someone does not touch them oddly in certain places. And as time goes on, we start having those discussions. So it's something that needs to start very, very early, but with the evolving capacity, maturity, and age of the child, now you can start progressing further and getting into the deeper issues, so that by the time they get to teenagehood, they can get the real facts as they are, and they're able to digest. I know the other challenge that we've also, maybe a problem we've had as parents, we've brought out sex as a very bad thing. And you realize it works very well until a certain age. Then beyond 18, there's a realization like, wow, there's something more to all this discussion and all that. So I think it's something that we really have to be deliberate, open up the discussions, have those topics based on the child of the age and the age of the child, and just progress with time as the child goes forward. Thank you.
Thank you. They call it tabia mbaya. Mtu amefanya tabia mbaya na mwenzake. It's a bad thing, right? They call their private part doo-doo. What is doo-doo, honestly? I mean, it's like all those bad things go with sex, and yet they also hear that it's the coolest thing on earth. And so there's a bit of confusion. And if you do not talk about, if you don't have a trust in your communication with your child, then they're 18 and all of a sudden want to talk about sex with them, they'll run away from you because they don't know what you're up to. But if we start early, you know, our kids in Nyali, in Kizingo, wherever, live in town, they don't have the time to see animals do some things. So they imagine things. In the village where I used to live, we would see cows do things with each other. And it was so easy, you wouldn't have to ask. But now it's a mystery and it's tabia mbaya. And yet the TV we watch tells us how cool. You can feel the mood. Our kids are watching everything that we don't want them to see. Think about it in real life.
Tom?
Yes, please.
There's also King Arthur to have an answer.
Yes, I was going to come to King Arthur, especially because you said you are discussing with Amelia about this thing and you're not hiding anything. I really want to know what Arthur is doing about the same. But before that, Arthur, just one more second. So if in our African setup, I can't come and watch what's going on in somebody's bedroom. By the way, I remember when I was a child, that was around 10, 11 years. That's not very young. But there was this drunk guy where I used to live. He would come and in the afternoon, he would call his wife to their room, and they had a, it's close to where I used to stay, but it was a funny room where the windows would just be open and they would be doing things in the daytime. We would run there to see, but it was really bad. We were found one day and beaten badly. But now we don't watch people's bedrooms. And yet on TV and movies, we really watch people doing things in their bedrooms. What has gone on? That our kids can't watch us here, but they're watching somebody else doing some things in their bedrooms. And then we wonder what's going on. Arthur, over to you. Sabrina is talking to Amelia about sex. Are you aware in the first place? And what?
Thank you, Tom. I'm very much aware, and I'm the one who leads that conversation. I think we had the latest one last week with Amelia. And it is not like talking to her. We actually discussed the challenges. The same topic we're talking about early teenage pregnancies, and we were arguing about the internet and all this. So in my family, I want to thank my wife because she has tried to help me also be very much open on certain subjects. I was telling her if where we come from, we were very conservative, just like you said, as well as Liz, that even up to the age of 15, 18, we still refer to those things as doo-doo, like we are shy to call them by the name. But when Sabrina, when I see the way she does it with even Alex and Amelia and all these things, it's not, for her, it's not shameful. Like even Anika now at age 3, you don't tell her that is your doo-doo. The same way you'll tell her this is your eye, this is your ankle, this is your feet, your nose. You mention it by name, because why would you tell her this is your eye and your ear, and when you get down there, you give it a different name? So
what's the name? What's the name of the other two? What's the name?
Yeah, we tell her it's the pussy. It's
okay.
yeah, she can relate with that. She's saying she can, Anika can go to the bathroom and say, "Mommy, I'm taking a shower and I'm going to wash my pussy myself." You know, like her, she says that a lot, and I don't feel embarrassed anymore when she says that. You know, being a man, because even her, she can come and tell me directly. So at that age, that is the language she understands. But to give her the exact name of what it is called, you know, so that she doesn't get any other funny name from any other place, because her friends will give her a different name, but she will trust what the mom has told her. So she sticks with that. Now, the importance of that is that it lays down the groundwork. So when Anika is 4 or 5 years old, when she begins to understand more, then you put it up again. This is like a school. You cannot remain in class 1 forever. So when she's 3 or 4, then you take her to the next level, because she'll start asking you, so mommy, where do kids come from? Okay, how do you explain that now? Okay, then when she's age of 10, her questions will change. But once you've laid the groundwork and you're not, you know, and they understand, they graduate as they go up. For a boy like Alex, as Liz says, you get a small boy touching himself, like Alex, you put it in a way that doesn't embarrass him, but you tell him, Alex, this is for this work, and it's not to be touched everywhere you want to touch it. You don't touch it every time you want it. You only touch it when you're in the loo, and you tell him by showing him what it is and by name. So I think we come from a very conservative culture where it was doo-doo. Everything was done in the dark. And even if you mention that thing by name, it was a crime. But I think we live in a time when kids, other than what they watch on TV, they mature so fast, you know. Tom and Tom will tell you that the first time he set his eyes on a girl probably was at the age of 20. And even so, his dad would chapa him for doing that. But these kids, if you read the biology books and research, they are mature at 12. Their sexual organs are ready at 12. I don't know what has changed, but the environmental factors have also changed. These kids mature so fast and they grow up so fast. A kid of 12 years old looks like a lady of 18 years old. And so you really have to also understand these environmental changes that are happening around us, as well as the social and technological changes. All these things go together. So we cannot be stuck in the way we were taught by our parents and expect our kids today to be like that. Just finally, Tom, as I wind up, I mean, there was a paper I read that says a teenage of 12-year-old today, okay, in a week spends at least 30 hours in front of a TV. 30 hours, that's a lot. Okay, that's a 12-year-old and above. 73% of them are on social networks, 73%. And 94% of them use internet. That can just tell you where the exposure comes from. Sister Esther talked about the exposure. So that thing that you're trying to hide from them, they will get it whether you like it or not from somewhere else. And that is one of the things you have to deal with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arthur. That's really informative, the kind of experience that we have. We are probably lucky you have somebody in your house who can break those conservative approaches. The youth in Nyali, Mauritius is just a stone throw away. If you want to break the cultural conservativeness, you can bring somebody from there to help you with the language and how to talk about these things. Well, somebody here called Technopop2 has given us some very good ideas here. Our parents taught us very well to be good girls and boys. Can this really happen in this generation? I really would want you to tell us how your parents taught you and what good girls and good boys mean or meant at those times. If you don't mind, we'll give you a chance to do that after Sister Rosemary says something. Sister Rosemary, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I think I liked the part that he was involved as a man in bringing up the children. You know, as I was listening to the members share, looks like we all know what actually causes teenage pregnancy. But now the question is, how do you talk to your children? I think we all know what it entails. We all know the issues, the consequences, and the challenge. But now, assuming you're talking to Rosemary, who does not know what to do, how do I start talking to my child? I think it will also be important for parents who are figuring out when to start. They might not have started at 0, but now they're wondering how. How do you walk into a child? Do you walk in and sit? Do you call him? Do you take a drive? What do you do? How do you start talking to your own child? I think one of the interesting things that the gentleman has talked about is media. All of us, I think 80% of maybe Nyali members, our children are doing online learning right now. But the question is, do you get time to sit with them? Do you monitor the chat? Because most of them use either Zooms or Teams. They actually create their own group. Sometimes my children say I like snooping on what they are doing. But you see, I also have my own issues as a parent. I have to actually check. They could be having their chats, yeah? And one of them is actually seated close to me and listening. There's this chat that I found. It's like, it's boring, just with parents everywhere. Of course, it had nothing to do, but I'm like, okay, so it looks like this is a healthy chat. It's okay. It's like Noah's Ark. Corona is here. We can't move, so we just have to stay. But now the challenge is now that they spend almost 80% of their time on internet, they are bound to read. Maybe the teacher hasn't showed up. What are they saying? What are they sharing in terms of video? So I want us to also look at how do you start talking about this doo-doo? It is not doo-doo anymore. It is a pussy. How do you start engaging your child? Do you lock the door? Do you pray? Do you start with the lesson and then end up at that place? So for me, I think what I'm struggling is how do we do this before you can, continue.
Thank you for that. How do we start? I think we really need solutions. We may have enough causes and all that. I mean, things have changed. Technopop 2 power, if you want to say something, I'll give you a chance about how our parents taught us. We want to learn probably, because right now the generation has changed. Somebody says, I think that's Elizabeth, the generation has changed so much. There should be, the method of teaching should be more deep, especially to teenagers. If we don't teach them, somebody else will teach them. We are not there for them, somebody else will be there for them. Nobody there for them, social media will be there for them and will teach them. They are in an identity crisis mode. And if you've ever read the theory of Erik Erikson, the psychosocial theory, he talks about the issue of identity versus role confusion. And clearly, the children lose their loyalty to the parents and become more loyal to their peers. Have you ever noticed that when they become in that age, they would rather do what their friends tell them to do than what you tell them to do? They'd rather spend time with their parents. They may have a word or two with you, but they're more comfortable with their parents. So how do you handle all these? Two questions I have now. If the techno person wants to say something, is the first priority. What does good boy, bad boy mean? Bad girl, good girl. Two, how did your parents teach you? The second question I want to ask everyone here, how do we start engaging our children in a conversation? That's the big question. That will be our takeaway. How do we start? The names of those things were just by the way. The bigger picture is how do we communicate and build trust with our children? If there are young people in this house, I can't see you, but I'm sure Sabrina can see the young people here. How would you want your parents to talk with you? At what age do we start our sex education? Over to you, the hosts and co-hosts. Identify those who want to talk and let them talk. I can't see them. Yes, Amelia, want to say something?
How did Mama talk sex to you? Oh, I asked questions and then she started explaining it slowly by slowly. So like if I had a question about it, I openly go to mom and then I ask her the question and then she'd come to me and she'll explain it slowly by slowly.
Where do I do that? In the house?
Yeah, in the house. Sometimes in the car, sometimes in the house. Yeah.
But I also think trust is very important on that issue of talking sex to your and pregnancy. I mean, trust, once you build that trust, it's the same like for a marriage, a wedding. When you build trust with your husband and when the husband builds trust in the wife, you discuss everything. You're able to discuss from A to B, C to share every single thing. So it's the same relationship that you have with your child. When you build the trust from the very beginning, and building trust as the same as in marriage, When they tell you something, you don't bang on their head. You don't say, that is not your age. Why are you talking about this now? You should be talking about it later. No, as Arthur said, you take it, when they ask a question, answer it accordingly to the level. Build the trust. If you don't build the trust now, there's no way that you will build the trust later. There's no way that that child will come to you and say, Mama, I'm pregnant. No, that will not happen. So now I will leave the floor to another person.
Elder Domingo. Elder Domingo.
Yes. Thank you. It's a very interesting discussion as it's unfolding. And we really welcome the conversation. We have been following the conversation right from the beginning, and I like the contribution done by Amelia and the King Arthur. We really appreciate that. Now, I want to agree that the way we have been people of my age and the way we were brought up, a lot of our interactions with the young ones is originating so much on not from what we have read, what we have learned can change us, but usually what we have seen happening and what we have seen our parents practice, they really influence a lot of how we are dealing with the issues as we reach their ages and bring our young ones. And so when they never interacted with us in that format, to begin now to acting in a way that that brings out the knowledge, the understanding of sex issues to our young ones, it becomes tricky. And so then we just have to face it, because now, like Atta said, that even if you don't say it, they have seen a lot, and they will see it from the wrong sources. So it calls for a very tough decision to really sit down and begin the conversation. And this conversation, you don't just begin it. It's not easy. It is not just that conversation, but there ought to be, as Amelia has said, some level of trust and mutual understanding. You start on the soft issues, not necessarily on sex, but you start on that opening. If you are able to have your young ones coming to you on personal problems, then you can really move into talking about sex. But if the environment you have created that of orders, that kind of a language has got a serious problem in allowing the other party to open up. The culture of criticism, it doesn't build. Criticism just makes somebody coil. But love and openness and culture and beginning to talk about other issues that allow the child things, because they're also human beings. They can only reveal to people that they trust. And so the challenge that we have, not even about how do we start opening, the challenge that we have is much more basic in terms of how do we relate with them, just like Amelia said. And if you build that relationship and that openness and trust, then it will be very easy to move to not only sex, but any other topics like development and all other aspects. So it's a whole new ballgame for people of my generation. But we don't have a choice. We just have to make a decision, start to do it, and do it very well. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's really helpful, Elder. Thank you so much. We are having it rough. The parents are admitting that it's not easy for them. Adeline Adventurer says parents could be tolerating too much. I think that's Sister Lynette. Do we have an option? Are we tolerating? I mean, what is going on? Tolerating too much, right? Parenting is the issue here. Relationship building, that's what we are talking about. I wish there would be a young person here who would tell us what their wish is. At what kind of conversations would you want the parents to have with you? You know, or if there's a very strong young person here wants to tell us how they ever learned about sex. I won't ask you the first time you had it, because as it is, you have not had sex, I know. So, but if somebody wants to tell us the first time they heard about sex, please, you can go ahead and do that. Anyone, any young person here? I can't see you guys, so.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
I'm Angela. And for me, the first time I heard about sex was when I was around 11 years. And the word I knew was tabia mbaya. So like someone would just say, angalia whether anafanya tabia mbaya kwa TV, then you'll know what's happening. When people are kissing on the TV, you'll be like, that's tabia mbaya. So when someone could tell me, oh, umefanya hiyo ni tabia mbaya, wacha, I'd be like, no, I've not done sex. I've not done sex. How is it tabia mbaya? So yeah, that's how I knew it. Then later on, we had these guidance and counseling sessions in our school every Wednesday at 4. So that's how it was introduced to us. And we were told it's not tabia mbaya, it's called sex. And that's where you came from. And yeah, until it developed to even pole. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Thank you, Angela. Thank you for being the risk taker to come forward to share with us. That's really good. Angela, I know that your friends also talk about sex and sometimes they share their experiences. Are there some of your friends and your age mates who share with you how nice it is?
Okay. They just say how they have watched them. Some actually watch the porn and then they be like, okay. They have never come to me and told me how it is, but there's this stuff that has been trending of late. It's a certain link that most teenagers are right now putting it on the status. Like when you press, they will show you something bad, so bad. It's kekma.ga. Yeah. So that's how it has been trending for late. And then I saw a certain message that those who commented on it are going to either they post a video of them doing that, or one of their family members will die. So yeah, I don't know if it's a threat or not. Yes.
Oh wow, that could be a dare like that we always have with the young people. It's good to share such. All right, maybe I'll now share with. I need to ask that question that maybe one of the young people will think about and answers. Why do you find it so difficult to talk to your parents about sex? The young people in the house can tell us, or those youths who are not young anymore, you can tell us, why did you find it so hard to talk to your parents about sex? I want us to share a video of how some parents have started the conversation so that it may just give us some little information as we move on. So I'll invite Susan to share that.
You're muted, Auntie Susan.
You're muted.
Sorry. I want to say, I must confess that I also struggled with this conversation. I remember Daktari used to stay in Nakuru and I was in Kisumu. And Josh one day asked me, Mommy, what is trust? And I was like, oh my God. And I told him, hold on, I'll find out. Yeah, I was not very good at this. And so I consulted my colleagues in the staff room. I consulted Daktari who was in Nakuru. Daktari told me, you tell him to wait, I'm coming to tell him. But my colleagues told me that the disadvantage with us and our children is that they are in town. They don't see animals, just like Mama Amelia said, yeah? Those who see, kids who see animals don't even ask these questions. They already have seen them in the field and all over. So one advice they gave me that next time they ask you anything, you have to be sincere. And true enough, the next time he asked me where babies came from, I actually shared, and I don't think I did a bad job of it. So let's see how some parents struggle with sharing about the birds and the bees. Okay, so if you can't hear, you let me know. 1 minute, let me increase my volume. Sorry, Bluetooth. Can you hear? Can you hear?
No.
Okay. All right, let me try again. It's been telling me unmute yourself. Okay.
Auntie Susan is unmuting and sorting it out. I remember how I heard about sex. A boy wrote to me a letter in primary. And as I was reading the letter, my mom found it and she said,
I am sorry,
"Wewe
I don't know
msichana,
why I'm not
siku itakukula hii
getting the
town."
sound. Would you go on for a minute?
Okay.
1 minute as I sort myself.
Okay. So then the question that I asked young people in the house, why do you find it so hard to talk to your parents about this? Is there somebody who wants to share this, or any young person here, or even the old people? Why did you find it? Yeah, go ahead.
As somebody is coming, I think if I was taken, if time was taken back, I think I would have a challenge to share with my parents, because I think a boy once wrote me a letter in primary school, and in my uniform, my mother got it. I think I'd forgotten to throw it, and then the only thing she said, well, unajua uko hapa Kisumu, kimi itakukula hii town. So how do you bring the next conversation? And that was how she communicated.
Sorry. I remember the letter I got when I was in class 6, and I cried. I cried, and I took it to my dad. And my dad was the headmaster of that school. He really caned that girl. She was a new girl in school, and she was so much in love with me. I didn't know what love was all about. And she wrote me in my mother tongue, very nice stuff about how she wanted to do some things with me that I didn't understand. I had never thought about such things. I cried. I took to my daddy crying, and the headmaster of the school just brought that girl to the staff room and really worked on her. I regret it now because she was beaten. If I went back, I would do things differently and try and understand her. So does somebody else want to say something? Any young person wants to share, or any old person with kids wants to tell us why they think there's a problem? Young people sharing with their parents about sex education. Anyone?
Esther,
Yes.
hand is up, so you can go ahead.
Oh.
Okay, happy Sabbath.
Mrs. Ojunga.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy day.
Happy day.
Okay, I can say parenting is difficult, but again, it differs from house to house depending on the structures of every house. I concur with a speaker who said you progress children according to their age. I can give an example of my youngest daughter, Maria. I think you know her. I usually progress them from age to age, giving different terminologies to their sexuality until they reach certain age where they can now know, but it has worked for me. Now, when they are getting their first menses, now we usually come to the real talk because they always tell me, it gets them with surprise and they come. Mommy, what is this? There is blood all over, what do I do? Now I tell them, I introduce them, I tell them, now it is like this. Never, never let somebody touch you. And you say it so open and in a flowing manner that she gets the firmness of the matter. It went like that when she went to medical school. Her second year, her lecturer started seducing her. She called me, Mommy, my lecturer who is teaching me anatomy told me this and that and that. I don't know what to tell him. I told him, please give me the number of the lecturer. I will talk to him on your behalf. I called the teacher. I told him, teacher, I'm Maria's mother, but excuse me, it is like this. For now, for the 6 years, let you be her father. But thereafter, we can now start talking about how many animals you can bring to my home. And it worked. So introduce a child depending on how the age of a child goes. Don't start giving children very big terminologies that they cannot fathom in their heads. Develop them. So usually, please, these children, they are exposed. And you know, African child, when we are westernizing them, we are also getting a lot of deviation from what we are used to. Again, as parents, we've stopped owning other people's children. when we were growing up in the villages, if somebody's father or mother finds you standing by the roadside with a boy, he will follow you to your mother's house and start caning you in front of your parents. So there was a lot of discipline. Whatever happens, the whole area will know. You know, so-and-so was found doing this and that. So the stigma was there. You never wanted to be one of those people who are being talked about in the villages. So I think the rain started raining on us when we started westernizing our kids and giving them, pampering them so much, because an African child honestly hears with his or her skin. You talk, sometimes it is not even talking. It is disciplining on impulse, then you talk later. That is how we were brought up. So I think there is a lot, but again, to me, developing them or progressing them worked for me. I don't know how it is going with other people, but it worked for me. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's really interesting. Thank you so much for that open sharing. Like somebody says, those days, sorry?
Techno Pop 2 is now ready to speak.
Oh, okay. Let me just say a word and then they'll speak. Thank you for that. So there was fear and stigma those days. You'd be caned and all that, but now it's cool to be punished for this. It's no longer a stigma. Somebody says, you know, it's no longer a stigma. What we used to call discipline, do we still call that discipline? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. What is discipline? Do you guys beat your children right now? Can it give you the same kind of impact that it used to have? Are we talking about, when we talk about sex education, as we said before, we are talking about developing a relationship, a communication environment, whereby when they get to the right age, you can be revealing things as they go. We are not saying that at year one, you sit them down and say, this is called that, this is called that. That's not what we are talking about. We are talking about a trusting relationship where communication, even about washing dishes, is not about being slapped around, but having a trust that you can tell me this and I know you're saying the truth. You're not lying to me. You mean well for me. I think that's critical. I can trust that whatever you do, you mean well for me. Technopop 2, please, go ahead.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elder. What I wanted to add on the conversation is that when we come to our children nowadays, the discipline we used to get when we were young those days, is not the discipline we are giving our children. The first thing is that we are absent parents. So whoever is disciplining our children are our relatives, our aunties, who are in our houses. So we leave our houses very early, we come very late, we have very little time with these kids. We don't have time to discipline them. We don't have time to talk to them about the early marriages, teenage pregnancies, violences in their houses. So they get this information from the house helps, our aunties, our relatives, who will feed them with something different, not what we wanted to tell them. So when we get things have already gone bad, it's too late. They've learned these things when they were still very young. So when you come and discipline them at an older age, it becomes very difficult for you to convince this girl or boy that this is very wrong or this is something not good to do at such a time. We also need to talk to our girls or our boys quoting the Bible. We can tell them from the Bible, we didn't get children. The children were not getting married early. They didn't do these things early. They did these things when they're very old, at an age that is expected for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. So it's about communicating with them. Somebody has an addition there. Francis, the Pathfinder, please go ahead.
Okay, it's Angela, sorry. What I wanted to say is that we find it difficult. We find it, what's the problem? Okay, so the reason as to why we are not so open to our parents is because we find it difficult to talk to them. Maybe because once they was harsh on us or strict, and then they bet us or caned us. So like we are afraid that they start saying that you have bad manners. That's not the right thing to talk about right now. It's not the right age yet. So they should at least react positively, even though we are talking like nonsense and we have that huge age gap between us. They should at least understand us and address us in that teenage language that we can easily understand. And another thing is that they have told us of their stories, how their parents made them be successful. So we are afraid that we will also be successful through the same path they were. And we are afraid of being like hurt emotionally and physically. So I think the way they react to us matters a lot. And that's why we tend to go to our peers, our friends. And of course, we think the same way, so they'll give us the wrong advice. So that's the difficulty. That corporal punishment shouldn't be there. You should just talk to us in a smooth manner. We will listen. We are not animals to beat us around. Yeah.
You're not animals to be beaten around. I like that. I don't know, Angel. I know that you will not get pregnant, but suppose you were, God forbid, who would you tell first that you're pregnant?
I have cousins who are like my elder sisters, so I'll just take my phone and call them and tell them.
Oh, sure. But your mom is not the first person you'll tell for sure, right?
Yeah, because like being shouted at, being slapped are the things I'm afraid of.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Esther K, you want to add something? Please go ahead.
Oh, it's Esther Kokach. So what I wanted to say is that we all know there's a very big difference in generation gap, like between us and our parents. So what I wanted to add is that these are stuff that should be talked about, because for me, all this stuff you hear them in school with your peers, and right now, like as someone said about social media and everything, everyone is there, so probably this stuff will hear them in school. And like the African culture, there are some things that are neglected, that aren't talked about, that should be put into focus. Like this isn't in the topic, but but my friend texted me today, and she told me that her best friend committed suicide yesterday. So and she told me that her best friend's parents are blaming the deceased, that they didn't see the reason why she did it, and they think her reason is stupid. So what I'm trying to say is that these things should be normalized and talked about, especially right now that we have a very big age gap, like from the previous generation, and now the difference is huge. Compare Right now we are more exposed to so many things just by such a way, and we are more connected with our peers than actually our parents. So yeah, like as for me, I remember the first time we talked about this stuff was like in depth, because all along I knew that sex is bad. So until one day in the Bible, I don't know, we were in class 5 and we were like reading the Bible in school, and my friends were like, angalia kwa Bible limeandikwa sex is holy. Like people were like wanashangaa. So when we reached class 6, I remember there's this topic about reproduction. So I got to realize that most parents don't talk to their children this. So in that topic, I remember we were 12 years old. I remember most people were opening to the teacher, who is actually our science teacher, telling us, asking questions about stuff that actually those questions weren't actually related, but they were related in a way. So, stuff they cannot tell their parents, they tell the teacher because actually, like, it's a topic that has been brought up and you don't know how to bring it up to your parent. Yeah, thank you.
Wow, that's so deep. I think that's really powerful. That's the kind of thing we want to hear here because we want to develop as parents. We know that we've not done a good job. We know we have tried. Our young ones want to be sugar-coated and pampered. I've seen what Esther Good was said there. Oh, baby, don't do this. It's wrong, I mean, the days you will be beaten for failing math are gone. These days, you don't do your assignment. They are, oh, you didn't do it? Okay. Next time, make sure you do it. Even teachers are tired. So everyone is giving up on the children. Who will talk to them? How many times do we talk about things that are not about books? Have you done your assignment? Have you done math? I don't even know what we discuss now that there's no school. There's no homework to ask about. What do we discuss in our families now? Because every evening you come home, the first thing, because I'm so late. Have you done your assignment? Have you done your homework? Are you ready for school? Is your uniform ready? Now there's no school for a year, guys. What are we discussing with our parents? It's time to start engaging. Now this 3-minute video is now ready. Let's just look at it as we close. Susan, over to you.
Unmute. How are you? Yeah. Can you hear? I don't know. Can you hear?
No.
No, we cannot.
No.
Okay, hold on.
Share sound.
Okay. It's in your email. Yes.
Okay. So maybe that was not meant to be shared.
Gigi, I can add something else she tries to set up.
Yeah, please do that.
Yeah, just first of all, I think I'm very happy with our children who are in this forum today, and with their good answers, because one thing that we parents must realize is that we can also learn from our children. Okay, and this has given us an opportunity to actually understand them better than we think. But there's a question you asked that I think has not been answered, that, okay, you have not been cultured to talk about sex. Now you want to talk about it to your kids who are adults or teenagers. How do you start? Because I think this is a question that we parents need help with, and we have to sort of offer them ways to start this discussion, because we cannot put our heads in the sand forever. So one of the things that I can quickly think about is which our church has actually provided for, are good books that talk about sex and sexuality. And for young adults, this can really help, because then if you see that they are getting into an age that their body is now changing. I've seen books that talk about, what's changing in my body, what's happening to my body. We have such a book. We have books that talk about, adolescents, whatever, all those topics. So it's an easier way to make entry into this conversation. And I think that's one of the things that we've also tried to do here, is that we just buy books that talk about difficult subjects about sex. So a kid who can read will find it easier to go into their room with that book and read for themselves. And then they can ask you questions later. So that's one thing. Another point you have to remember is that it's not going to happen the way we always want. The problem with parents is that they want it to happen the way they think it should happen. As our mother Ojunga said, it is never that easy. And so you have to really build what you call more of a sense of responsibility. What I got from Madam Ojunga is that she built a form of responsibility in her kids so that they are able to make decisions. Because it's not just about talking about sex, but if we can train our kids to be responsible, that they can make decisions on their own, then I think that is the foundation of all these solutions to this problem. For example, it doesn't just have to start with the sex decisions. It could be a simple decision like, I gave you 1,000. How will you make use of this money? When you see that your child is able to make proper decisions using the little money that you've given them, then that is showing that they can make decisions on other difficult subjects. And I think that is something that we need to really inculcate in our children, give them situations where they have to make decisions and make the consequences of those decisions very clear to them. And finally, a lot of times, I'll give an example that I use with Amelia here. Sometimes I catch her watching movies that are rated 16 plus, okay? We have Netflix, but there are movies that she needs to watch that are 14 below. But you'll find her watching 16 plus. Then I'll just take the remote and pause the movie, and then I'll ask her. So I can see a lot of kissing in that movie. So how is it helping you? And then she looks at you without an answer on her face. So, but it's a way of starting the conversation. I mean, what you've watched here, how is it going to help you? Tell me. So, and she can hardly find an answer for that. And then she realizes that, okay, this is not right for me. And then finally, some practical examples, like you said, what do we do with our kids now? Okay. One of the things I would like to share with parents that I'm trying out, I don't know whether it's going to work or not, but it's you spend a lot of time with your children, especially the teenagers. I think one of the speakers just mentioned earlier that we rarely spend time with our kids. Find time to spend with those kids. So for me, during this moment of Corona, we actually go running with my daughter, every day. This is a time that we can talk things, me and her, as father and daughter, while we are running, and she's the one who actually will come and ask me, Daddy, are we going running today? So I think that building that trust, and then she's able now to open up and ask me stuff that previously was so difficult. For example, Amelia can come to me and ask me, Daddy, are you going to the supermarket? Go and buy for me pads. Before it looked awkward, but now it's so normal. Like I buy for her sanitary pads and she's the one asking me to go buy. So I think there are so many ways. There's no single solution to this, but I think we can try some practical things to help each other out and share our experiences on this. Thank you very much, Mwalimu Titi, for the time.
May I say something?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's Subira, and I also wanted to say how parents can bring up like that conversation. Normally, okay, when I used to be a little bit younger, when I could go and ask my mom where babies come from, she would like lie to me first and then later start introducing me to that kind of talk, like telling me, so when you become a big girl, you're going to go through this and this and this, and you should not let people do this and this and this. And as I continue growing, I ask her more questions. So like after asking her questions, she's always open to me and tells me everything. So like when you have the chance to explain it, just do it all. Like when we come to you and ask you, you just be open. Yeah, that's all.
Elda Buto. Elda.
We're going to talk about where babies come from.
Do you know anything about intercourse?
So, today we're going to talk about how babies are made, where they come from.
Would you like to know how babies are made?
Made of water. Humans are made of water.
Yeah,
I knew it.
That's true.
From God.
From God?
I thought it was because of God that sent us down into your stomach to be born.
To be born?
Sperm, egg, collide, blah, blah.
What do you mean, sperm, egg, collide? Where did you learn that from?
Nick, duh.
Who's Nick?
My brother.
Hey, what did he tell you?
Bad stuff.
What makes me a man and what makes mom a woman?
You have bigger hands in her. There's some kind of hole here, like an igloo.
Oh, okay. So, Miles, you know that me and Mama are girls?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you know, is there a specific body part that you know of?
The place between the mommy's legs.
Oh, the vagina, right?
The vagina.
You know, it's called the vagina.
Ah!
Yeah. Okay.
How do you pronounce it? Did I say it right?
It's called vagina.
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 Yeah.
Vagina. How do you say it?
How did your Tia Alice have her baby?
She came out of her butt.
Her butt? Does it come through the bottom? The butt?
It came out of her vagina.
That's weird.
So when two people are in love.
Don't say that again.
Okay, no more love.
Melody, when two adults want to have a child, they have to have
Work
sex.
together. Work together.
Work
They have to work together, yes.
I said no more love.
No more love. All right, we're gonna use another word. Mommy and daddy hang out.
The woman has an egg.
An egg?
Yes.
The mom provides the egg and the dad provides the sperm.
Do you know where the sperm comes from? Where does it come out? Do you know where it comes out? The sperm comes out of your penis.
And when he releases that fluid, when they're having sex, when they're making love, that makes a baby. I don't like that.
Okay.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
And when that sperm comes out of dad's penis into mom's body, then sometimes it can make a baby.
I did not know that.
You did not know that?
And there's lots of sperms floating around.
How does like the penis get to it, the vagina?
We want to talk about it medically? Like mommy's a nurse.
I do not even know what that means.
Right?
And then how does daddy give the sperm to mommy?
They have sex.
What?
I told you they told me a lot of stuff.
So mommy and daddy got together and we took off all our clothes and we got inside the blanket so we were really warm. And then mommy and daddy did a special dance and there you were. That's how you were made.
Oh my gosh, this is really, really, really no good if you took off all your clothes.
See this pocket?
Yep.
Okay. The pocket is the vagina. Okay? And in order to have a child, daddy has to put his penis in the pocket. You understand?
So the penis goes into the vagina, goes inside.
That's really disgusting, you know. Or not. Oh.
Was this uncomfortable?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're gonna look at the world a lot different.
I know each one of us must have had some of those uncomfortable scenarios, but I also know that our kids or the kids we've shared with have had such uncomfortable conversations. But this video just tells us where to start from in our conversations. Our African culture may be a little different from the European culture or the Western culture, but we must accept the fact that things are becoming more dynamic. They're watching so many things, we'll be shocked. Like one of those kids knew more than the dad was even surprised. So we will have to just take a step forward to make our kids comfortable with us enough to share with us. And as we have learned in our conversation today, we will have to learn how to be progressive in our conversations with them. If we form good relationships with our children and they're open enough to speak to us, like Angela and Subira have also shared with us, I am sure we will move towards reducing or avoiding these teenage pregnancies. We have a part to play in this, in as much as our children also have a part to play in this. May the Lord give us that wisdom of how to engage with our children. And we are also a community to engage with our neighbors' children and just together train them in what the Lord would want to have them when he comes in the second coming. May the Lord bless you as you think about this. I'll hand over to Daktari and Rose for the final word.
Okay. Yeah, those guys out there can say what they want to say, and the contexts are different, the cultures are different. There is no one size fit it all. So we must get our own ways, like somebody said. We cannot say one method works for everyone. So I would just want to say that let us think about building trusting relationships with our people. One last thing that you may need to think about as we go is, why are a lot of things held chini ya maji? Nobody wants to come and tell their parents this. If mothers find out that the father slept with their daughter, the other, hii isisemekane, isijulikane, let us get a way of sorting it out in the home, you know? So how do we handle our own in a way that they can tell us everything that happens to them? Somebody said the maids are the ones who are really teaching our kids. And a lot of maids have sex with our boys when they're very young. I know of my friend's son who was hardly 10 years and was infected by the maid, STI. And a lot of that happens and the babies never get to tell us, you know. So what kind of communication are you building with your own children? Sister Rosemary, you could say the last word. I think our time is fast spent, so we're just winding up.
Thank you, Dr. I know that issues are children, teenage pregnancies can never be finished in one sitting. I know a lot of us are going home with so much in our heads, but two things I want us to remember. How do you discuss this with your child? Very important. Remember, your child identifies who you are. Who do you want your child to grow up into? So the earlier, the better. You know your own child. You know what is age appropriate. Remember, we're talking about the best interest of the child. If the best interest of the child is to have access to information, then as a parent, let the child have the first information from you. If you don't tell your child you love them, that border person will tell them they love them. So remind your child how much you love them. They are your best. And sometimes I tell teenagers, we have never parented teenagers, so all the firstborns are our first guinea pigs, so we are also trying. So as parents, sometimes we fail, but bear with us. We are only trying to find a balance. And most importantly, let us create family. I think sometimes I tell people the best thing about Corona is some of us are getting to know our children better, getting to understand who they are, how much they have learned. Bottom line, spend time with your children. Let you be the first person they think about when they're faced with challenges. Let our children not be the statistics that the government is using to display sexual abuse in the country. And may God bless you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Somebody else will, maybe not the border person, maybe the youth member in the church, maybe their closest friend, maybe your friend. Maybe my friend would be the one asking Joy, my daughter, for a date. Who knows? Angela has a parting shot. Angela, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry I'm late. But what I wanted to urge my fellow teenagers is that we should do something because it's the right thing. And we shouldn't rely on our parents to tell us. We have technology, we can just research. Google or even go to YouTube and watch the videos for. So your parent failing to tell you doesn't mean your parent is a bad parent. And you shouldn't do it so that your parent can be seen as a good parent. Parenthood is not like, it's not a lesson. They need to go and sit and then they learn about parenthood. It's about the experience you have with your parents. So you should also take a step and do the right thing, because it will help you in your future. Your parents have already made they did their best when they were teenagers. So you should also take your part and do the best. Don't rely on them. Yeah.
Do not rely on your parents. That's a good one. I want to just read one last verse as we finish up. 1 Peter 2, verse 9. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. As much as the world is struggling with this, we need to remember we are a special generation. We do what we do because of the person who owns us, not because of who we are. I agree with you, Angela. Let's not do it because our parents want us to do it, but because we are God's own children, he wants us to do it. So young people, before you start complaining and fighting with your parents, remember God expects of you a particular standard because we belong to a priesthood. We belong to him. We are his children. Let us all try and build a relationship. Whatever we have learned, there are different ways of doing things. Pick what worked with your family and take it to God in prayer. Sometimes we forfeit peace just because we don't take it to him in prayer. May God bless all of you, and thank you for giving us a chance to have a moment to share with you. We have also learned so much. God bless you. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Adrian, you want to wind up?
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope all of you have been blessed by this presentation.
Yes, very much, very much.
Yes,
Yes.
I want to thank Elder Abuto, Daktari. Thank you so much. Madam Mrs. Abuto, and also our sister Rosemary. And all of us who actually participated in this. Thank you so much, and may God bless you. I know we would want to continue, so I just think we create more time for such discussions, because I realize that there's so many other things that we need to actually discuss. Some of us youths were listening in the background, kama sisi, so don't worry. We listened, we took notes. We took notes. Yes. So may God bless you. So at this moment, I want to invite Elder Joseph Nyangau. He will give us a short devotion, just a sundowner, and then release us for this Sabbath day. So Elder Joseph Nyangau, you're welcome. You can just Elder Nyangau.
Yes, I'm online.
Yes, yes.
Are you getting me?
We can, sir.
Yes, I want to first thank Dr. Abuto for hosting this discussion. It is God's interest that we bring up the children in the good way, because when we go to heaven, God will ask us, where are the children? So I want to encourage that we, in the future, maybe we provide more time so that we may continue even to finish where we have not finished. I just want to read a verse so that we may have to close. I want to read the book of Revelation, chapter 14. Revelation 14, verse 12. It says, "Here is the patience of the saints. Here are those who keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus." Here are the patience of the saints who have the faith and who keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus. I just want to talk about the faith of Jesus. We need the faith of Jesus at this time, and we need to prepare as we prepare for our journey towards heaven. We need the faith of Jesus. I want also to read the book of a quotation from the book of The Great Controversy, page 621. It says, "The seasons of distress and anguish before us will require a faith that can endure weariness, delay, hunger, a faith that will not faint, though it is severely tested. And this, a period of probation, has been granted to all of us to prepare for that time." So I want to look at how can we increase our faith and how do we practice our faith. And the best way to do it is to seek God's help. How do we seek God's help? We have the Bible. I want to tell you the practical way of how we can increase our faith. If you have a Bible, and there is this Bible, which is sometimes the Bible called Concordance Bible. Find the word patience. You look through the Bible and you look along the edges, the word patience. Find the word patience and read every scripture that mentions patience. When you get one verse, it will give you a reference to where else patience is mentioned. Look for the word patience or patient. If it is an instruction, be patient and put yourself in that patience and ask God for strength to carry out that patience. If it's a promise, claim that promise and claim it now. If it is a prayer regarding a need of patience, you must make it a prayer to God. Have a Jacob's experience. Have the experience like Jesus Christ. Amen. So today, as we conclude the Sabbath, I want to thank you for participating. And I want to pray that this, as we now cross, that we may look at ourselves and see how we can practice this faith. Faith is very important for a Christian. It was the faith that helped Christ to endure the cross. It is our need that we need the faith. May we pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you and we seek your face this evening as we conclude the Sabbath. Want to pray that as we seek you through faith, that you may grant and that you may give the promises that are there for us as we mention them as we read through the scriptures. We pray for thy strength through the Holy Spirit, that it may guide us and give us every opportunity to serve you, even within our families. I want to present the children amongst us, whom you have given to us, that we may know how to relate with them, build relationships, and build confidence in them, that they also may be tools that you can use. Let us be of use to them and give us the understanding and the wisdom as we read to them, that we may help them to build the family of faith, so that when we go to heaven, we will rejoice when they join us there. Be with us, for this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's say the grace.
May the grace of our Lord Jesus
Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit
be with us now
and forevermore.
Amen.
Amen.
So before we all go, just a brief announcement. Next week we have Children's Sabbath. Next week we have Children's Sabbath. This topic, I think it will somewhat continue, because in the afternoon we'll also be dealing with something about the mental health of our children. So all of us are also still welcome. The link will still be the same. The password is still the same. So feel free to join us wherever you will be. May God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Amen.
Thank you, Edwin. God bless you too.
Amen.
Bye.
Hello, Nyali. Bye, Nyali.